and welcome to Legislative Report. I'm State Representative Mark Gillen, representing the 128th District in Berks and Lancaster counties. As a state representative, I feel one of my responsibilities is to honor and remember the sacrifices that our military veterans have made throughout our history as a nation. I often have the privilege of meeting veterans from my district that I have brought to the state capitol as guests to help commemorate various military anniversaries. Recently, I spoke on the House floor in support of my House Resolution 1002, which honors the more than 170,000 veterans who served the U.S. in 3 different wars, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. And I was thrilled to have one of these vets, Leonard Delong, as my guest that day. On this month's program, I want to share the speech I gave to honor Leonard and his comrades, as well as some conversation Leonard and I had afterwards.
In the back of the auditorium, we have members of the DeLong family. We also have individuals from Colonel Jacob Morgan, Post 537 in Carnarvon Township, Berks County, that I want to recognize, as well as Mr. Leonard DeLong and his stepson, Charles Johnson. I'd like us to acknowledge them and give them a welcome to the Hall of the House, and I'll say more about Mr. DeLong in a moment. Please rise. Thank you. You may be seated. During the Pledge of Allegiance and the prayer earlier, I noticed that Leonard DeLong was probably one of the first to his feet, though maybe a little bit less capable than some others in the Hall of the House. He would have had every good reason physically to remain seated, but Mr. DeLong is all about duty. 1969, he received orders to go to Vietnam for the second time with the 1st Marine Air Wing near Da Nang, the Air Force Base. And I said to him, was there any hesitancy? And I'll explain why we could conceive that there may be some pause. But he said, no, it was my duty to go to Vietnam for a second tour of duty. Back in 1950, Mr. DeLong was called to Korea, to the Incheon landing, that legendary movement led by General Douglas MacArthur that saved the Korean people and the peninsula. Later in that conflict, Leonard DeLong was at the Chosin Reservoir, which only could be described as brutal, savage, where tens of thousands of combatants on both sides lost their lives, some to mortar rounds, others to bullets, still others because of the elements in the Chosin Reservoir. In 1943, Leonard DeLong received his call to duty as a United States Marine. And in 1944, perhaps the better-known D-Day landing was occurring. Leonard DeLong was running out of a landing craft with another 18-year-old alongside of him and said, this looks like the end for us. Saipan was heavily fortified, heavily guarded, and was the site of the greatest, the largest banzai charge in the South Pacific during World War II. There was somebody else on Saipan that was a target of the United States Marines, the United States Armed Forces. Chichinuramo was the admiral that led the carrier attack on the United States at Pearl Harbor. In that battle for Saipan, there were a number of notable naval vessels, but let me note two of them: the battleship California and the battleship Tennessee. The battleship California was sunk at Pearl Harbor, and the battleship Tennessee was damaged, both with loss of life. The United States refloated the California, rebuilt her, and the Tennessee was repaired, and both saw action at Saipan. In World War II, Leonard Delong was at Saipan. He was at Okinawa. He was at Tinian. And he received 3 Bronze Stars for heroic conduct, for valor, for achievement, for bravery, and literally for a love of country, and we thank you for that. His unwavering response to the call to duty continued into the Korean conflict. 3 Bronze Stars in the South Pacific. Some years later in Korea, 5 Bronze Stars for Leonard Delong. He's a man who at 91 years young just celebrated a birthday in August, still loves that flag enough to stand up when it's difficult to do it. In fact, he's been very sick recently, but he much wanted to be here to greet you. Unwavering, relentless in the face of the heat of battle, tenacious in conflict because he loves that flag. He responded in World War II, in Korea, in Vietnam, to the call and the cry of duty, honor, and country. Leonard, we love you. God bless you.
I'm State Representative Mark Gillen. I represent Southern Berks and Northern Lancaster County in the State House of Representatives. And joining me today for a brief interview is Leonard Delong, who has an extraordinary story to tell. He is a veteran of World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. Let's rewind here for a moment, Leonard. It's 1944, and you're coming ashore at Saipan. There's another young Marine next to you. What's going through your mind? What sort of a conversation are you having?
We discussed that we were going to die young because we see no way that we were going to make it.
What does it smell like? What are the sounds you're hearing? What are the sights?
Well, everything was going on. It was a war going on. He was 18 and I was 18. And it just dawned on us that we don't think we're going to make it.
You do get ashore.
We got ashore and set up. And I think it was at their night. All the ships took off because the Japanese fleet was around, and I was worried where we were going to get our ammunition, food, and water. But the ships did come back. And the third night, I think, was a big tank battle in front of us. I was with the artillery then, little 75 pack house, and we sat right on the front line with the infantry. And the Jap threw all the tanks they had at us that night, but they didn't knock us off.
Now, we understand from history that there were banzai charges that were occurring.
Yeah, this old banzai attack, they get sackied up, and that banzai disorganized. They couldn't win on a banzai attack. We were set up for them all the time.
You referenced sake. That is an alcoholic beverage that the Japanese...
That's their hard stuff drinking, sake.
So they were inebriated in some cases while they were charging at you.
Yep. Most of the time when you pull a banzai attack, they're doped up.
In an earlier conversation, we talked about the intensity of the conflicts that you were involved in, Vietnam, Korea, as well as the Second World War. You'd mentioned the adversary of the Japanese being particularly ferocious, savage fighters.
The Japanese, in all my wars, well, it was a conventional war. They were the roughest. The Chinese weren't bad in Korea when they came in. North Koreans, they all hit and run. Same as Vietnam, no conventional war going on at all. You have to guess everything.
So when the Japanese are coming at you, they mean business, they're prepared to die and sacrifice.
They're prepared to die.
How does that affect the morale and the ranks of the soldiers around you knowing this?
Well, we knew that if we got captured, that we were gone. The Japanese knew if they got captured, what we were going to do to them.
And so it's a rough go on both sides in terms of what's happening in people's minds. There's got to be a lot of fear.
Because the Japanese, they would kill us. We would do the same thing. We were told a couple times, you take a prisoner, it's up to you to take care of him then. Who wants to take care of a prisoner if you capture one? You just soon leave him lay in the field somewhere.
Right. Now, there were bombardments and there were aerial assaults that had occurred long before you had landed. When we talked to people that were at Iwo Jima, there was an anticipation, well, maybe we've subdued the enemy with a bombardment. What was going through your mind?
I thought the bombardment would do it, but every time I got ashore, no matter where it was, it didn't seem to do anything. Now, I seen the beach that the 2nd Marine Division was going to hit. In fact, we were loading ships for the invasion of Japan when the war got over. And I seen the beach. And our colonel told me that our estimation was all wrong. Plus, the Japanese kids, women, and everybody else, they were not going to give up if we would have invaded them. The only reason they gave up is because Tojo said to give up.
No surrender in them.
They weren't going to surrender. I was told that the 2nd Marine Division, they'd all be wounded or KIAs killed. Because we were going to take the blunt on hitting. Because we were supposed to go to Iwo, but we got whipped too hard on Tarawa and on Saipan. I wasn't on Tarawa. I joined the outfit after Tarawa. But we even got hit too hard on Saipan that we weren't ready for combat for a while.
It's to be understood that the Japanese employed the civilians against the United States troops.
Yep. The Japanese and the civilians on Saipan at the end, at the cliff, they all committed suicide. They ran off the cliff, big cliff. And they would not surrender to us.
They were told terrible things would happen to them
right.
if they surrendered to you.
We were mean and everything else, but we weren't.
Now, let's talk about Tinian. You landed there, Okinawa. How was it different there than Saipan?
Tinian was all flat land, real flat, because that's where they wanted that to put the big airport in for the B-29s. Of course, the B-29s were on Saipan, too. They came in there. And Tinian wasn't that bad as far as I was concerned. They, when they lost Saipan, and at the same time they lost Guam in the Marianas there, they were whipped.
So it allowed for strategic bombing of the mainland once those airports were secure there in the Marianas.
Yeah, then they had to go after Iwo then, because the fighters were going up from Iwo and going after the B-29s going in to bomb Japan.
That allowed for the support aircraft to protect the heavier
so
bombers.
That's why they went after Iwo. Then after that, they had to go get Okinawa. Okinawa, they were coming up after them.
Now, for the average soldier, does anybody take the time to explain the strategic importance? Why this island? Why this airstrip? In terms of what you're doing, how much of an explanation were you provided, or we're going to take this island?
None at all.
Okay.
Just that we were told that this is the first Japanese mainland, I think, that we're going after, was Saipan. Guam we used to own, and we stepped to the closest.
Now, the Okinawa campaign,
Yeah.
a little bit different than Tinian.
Yeah, I only spent a short time on there. Short time on there. The only thing I know too much about Okinawa is that the kamikaze kids came in flying them planes and taking the planes and diving them into the ships. But I didn't do much at all on Okinawa.
And that would have been around April of '45 in terms of the Okinawa campaign and the kamikazes coming out, hitting the United States fleet.
I think we finished the fleet off there too. Well, I think after Saipan, they were pretty well whipped.
Right, and of course, their super ship, the Yamato, was sunk in April of '45.
Yeah.
Now, let's go to mainland occupied Japan. You had mentioned that you were on the ground at Nagasaki. How much after the atomic bomb blast of August '45 did you have boots on the ground in Nagasaki?
Well, I don't know. We went in there and occupied it, and we went around all the factories getting arms. We had truckload of rifles, Samani swords, and everything. We took everything they had in there, and I was one of the high points. As soon as they could release us, I came home. In fact, I got discharged. I was 20 years old when I got discharged.
When you're in Nagasaki, you're on the outskirts. Did you have any sense of the destructive force that was unleashed there in the atomic explosion?
No, I could see it. We didn't go in. We had no desire to go in there. Mm-hmm. And Nagasaki was all. It was pretty good. I don't think we had liberty there. Yes, we did. Yes, we did. Because the Japanese people were wonderful. They were wonderful. Like we became friends with them right away.
Now, let's move to another conflict. Not that we've, by any stretch of the imagination, exhausted your service in World War II, but that's 1945, where you're back home. But 5 years later, you find yourself in Korea.
Well, I came home, and I went to work for my father. My father had a suspension business, and I went in there, me and my brother both, and I wasn't getting ahead. And I told my father I was going back in the Marine Corps again. I said, I can do better in the Marine Corps. I can do working for you. So I went back in the Marine Corps again. And that is when I got caught. I went back in 48. And that is when I got caught in the Korean conflict.
Well, it's 1950 now, and the nation finds itself at war, and somewhat unprepared as the North Koreans sweep down into South Korea. When did you get your orders? What was your first indication you were shipping out?
Well, I was stationed outside of Philadelphia, and I came down to the Philadelphia Navy Yard. They brought our issue of clothes all up to snuff. And I got home, talked to my father, I told him I was going. Father took me down that weekend, and I think on a Sunday we shipped out to the West Coast. He figured I'm doing something I want to do, I like, so off I went.
Did you know how bad it was going to be over in Korea? Did anybody really know?
Had no idea. That didn't faze me. That didn't bother me. I was in the Marine Corps knowing that if something's going to happen, I'm going to be there.
I mean, South Korea almost ceased to be a nation.
I was up in Wonsan, I think, when I heard the Chinese are coming over, because we figured we'd be up at the Yellow River, and we were supposed to be home for Christmas. I wrote my father and said, don't wait for me for Christmas. I said, there's 350,000 Chinese sitting on the Yellow River border up there waiting to come down after us. I said, I don't know what's going to happen.
So the political leaders are saying home for Christmas, but boots on the ground are seeing something different. There's Chinese massing for an attack.
We've seen it. The Chinese, if they would have been smart enough, could have did a lot of damage to the 2nd Division, I mean the 1st Marine Division, because they came through us. We could go towards China easier than we can to fight our way back to Ham Hong to get out of there.
In terms of the port area.
Right, yeah.
Now, Chairman Mao had said destroy them. That was their goal.
Yep.
Not just to beat you, he wanted you destroyed. And they were pouring down against you. Of course, both sides took huge casualties, especially the Chinese communists. Is there a point you think, hey, we're going to get overrun here?
Mm-hmm.
Did you think they were going to prevail at some point?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you're making your way, you're breaking out toward the port area. Any recollection of pulling back and fighting your way back out? Many folks didn't think they were going to make it out.
No. The only way you could get out of there without fighting our way back is either dead, wounded, and the helicopters could come in to get you out, either wounded or frozen.
You said frozen. Now, when we hear from veterans about what it was like up there, the word frozen and frostbite and elements are words that commonly rise to the surface. How bad were those elements and the cold? Yeah.
Huh? It was horrible. We only used to be on the line maybe an hour and have to find a warm-up tent. It was 30-some degrees below zero.
It's 30 below zero and somebody's frostbitten. What sort of medical is readily available in that environment there?
They try to get you out if they could. If they couldn't, then nothing they could do. You just had to suffer.
Now, more contemporary, Vietnam. Most of your comrades from World War II, as well as Korea, have long since retired. They're on the sidelines.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever envision yourself in a third major war, fighting for the United States?
What, fighting again?
Yeah, it's 1966, and here you are in Vietnam.
Yeah, well, in my condition, I have to say, I know I can't. I know what should be done, though. They've got to be stopped.
Right. You're not going to do it today, but in 1966, you're in Vietnam, and you find yourself in uniform in a major conflict. Anybody ever ask you and say, hey, Sarge, hey, Leonard, your third major war? Did that surprise people?
Yep, yeah, yeah.
And you answered them how? Someone says, come on now, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, what are you doing here?
Well, deep inside my heart, I didn't think I could make the first trip in Vietnam. Then the second time, I was going to the wing. Well, first I was going back in ground pounders again, and they modified my office, my duty, and put me with the wing. Where in the wing, all you have to do is worry about a guerrilla and get to the Dang Nang airfield area or rockets coming in at night. It was a lot easier because my buddy went up where I was the first time, and he got killed in a month. He took over a company gunny up there, and he got killed in 1 month.
If you could carry a message to another generation of Marines, American troops, any branch of the service about maybe something you learned and you want them to know, what would that be relative to your own service?
Well, the Marines are in there for one reason. They're in there to fight, you know what I mean? It's a fighting outfit. It's a fighting outfit. That's why I was in the Marine Corps. My father didn't want to sign for me to go in the Marine Corps. He said, why don't you pick the Air Force or the Navy? The Marine Corps. He said, Leonard, that's the roughest there is. Are you sure you want to go in there? I said, that's where I want to go. And that's when I was 17. And I believe that. I went in there to fight, but when I was 18, going in on that there Higgins boat, I said, I don't think we're going to live to be old. I was right then. You know what I mean? But I picked it, and I never steered away from the Marine Corps.
That's all the time we have for this month's program. I'm State Representative Mark Gillen. If you have any questions about what you've just seen, or if I can assist you with any state government related issue, please contact me at my district office through my website or on Facebook. That information will appear shortly. Thanks for watching, and please join me next time for Legislative Report.